All right, we're starting. Morning, everybody. Let's see if we can get a few more people in. Everyone's joining. How are you doing, Johnny? Okay?
I'm all good, Ben. How are you?
Yeah, really well. Thank you, mate. Been looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too.
I've got a few in.
Yeah, give it a couple
I'm
of
sure.
minutes and we'll get going.
Yeah, we've got ever more people joining, which is great. Cool. Well, look, we'll be respectful of everybody's diaries. There will be a recording sent around of this as well, so we'll get kicked off. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us for another Notify Technology webinar. By way of introductions, my name's Ben. I'm going to be the host and sort of the question asker. I will relay your questions to Johnny later on, and I'm very pleased to say that I'm joined by my colleague Johnny as well this morning. So thank you again for joining us and welcome. Today we're going to be looking at how digitalisation can improve consistency and accuracy of your audits, checklists and inspections. So alongside, we're going to have a little bit of a look at how we can facilitate that through the Notify platform, tell a couple of stories, and then we'll jump in for Q&A at the end. As well as that, if anyone has any questions, please do drop them in the chat box and I'll get to them throughout the end as well. So just a little bit about us before we get started. You know, who are we and why are we talking to you about things like this today? So we're Notify, we're a technology company that make sort of simple and intuitive health and safety software. So we are trying to make as many people around the world as safe as we possibly can by having simple, easy to use, and importantly, secure technology that we aim at people who are based in the SHEQ role in lots of different sectors. So we help keep over 200,000 people safe at work every day. We capture over 40,000 safety events and insights across 100 customers in over 100 countries. And we like to brag about the NPS score as well. So we're pretty good at keeping our customers happy too. So by way of an agenda, what we're going to look at in this exact order is we're going to look at how to capture consistent audit information. We're going to look at automating and scheduling audits and corrective actions in order to be able to create efficiency, but also making sure that we're keeping things like accuracy, reliability, and the timeliness of the data entry as simple and effective as we possibly can. We're going to have a little look at how mobile apps can enable audits to be carried out from anywhere. So there's no barriers from a locations perspective. Get that information where you are and when you need it. We're going to look at the dashboards as well, because we know it's very important for people to have a centralized view and a reliable view of all their audit data. And then we're going to save some time at the end for the questions and answers. So again, make sure to get your questions in the chat box and I'll get them across to Johnny towards the end.
Great stuff.
Right. With that, happy to hand over to Johnny.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ben. So Ben's done a little bit of an introduction, I thought, just before I take you into the platform itself. I'm Johnny. I'm one of the product experts here at Notify, and essentially any queries, anytime you want to look through the tech, I'll be your main point of contact, really. So some of you may have been on the incident webinar that we did in December, and we're trying to run these as a bit of on a quarterly basis, as long as we can provide some value. So again, the first bit we're going to start with today is going to be how we capture consistent audit information. So what I'm going to do is we're going to log into the platform, and where we come in is into the form templates area down the left hand side here. So the key to capturing consistent audit information, from when I've experienced this across all manner of sectors, is it comes down to a couple of bits. How can we create the data for the end users to make sure they're going to carry it out in a way that you're happy with, but also in a way that ensures that the end users are encouraged to continuously keep coming back and doing it. So we could fill out all the questions and provide all the questions in the world, so we get great data, but at some point there has to be a trade-off, because actually the end users who are going to go and carry out these inspections, they might not want 20, 30, 40 plus questions. So as you can see on the screen here, our form template manager is where we build, design, create and manage the templates that we're pushing out. Across the top, what we can see is a categorization. Now, the key element here is the configurability of allowing you to almost create a folder type approach to these documents. So if I wanted to store checklists, I wanted to store daily briefings, health and safety audits, inspections. But what we're going to do is I've created almost half a template to run through today. We're going to show you some of the cool functionality and how we actually can capture that data consistently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in to the notify daily site inspection template that I've created. So when I come into here, you can see actually this is locked down because it's a published template. But the key to this is across the bottom, when I come in, I can just click create new version. Now, when I create that, what that allows me to do is start to come and edit these question sets. So what we're going to do first, we're just going to run through some of the functionality that we've built into the template, and then we're going to go and add a couple of bits. So when I come and preview this, what you can see is very basic around the what's the site manager's name, where are we, so we've got the map selection. So actually when the end users are completing this in the app perspective, it's a case of actually how easy do we want to make it for them? Do we just want to click on a geotag so we know where they are? We've then got questions around, okay, our fire exit's clearly marked. Now, if I'm to answer yes or no to this, what we want to be able to do is send the end users off into different paths based on the answers to the questions. And we do this via custom visibility rules. So if I was to say yes to are the fire exits clearly marked, it's going to prompt me to go and take a photograph. Now, if I was to say no, it's going to say, okay, please clear the fire exits as an action and take the photographs once it's complete. So it's prompting me to do an additional step. But actually, if I was the end user that said yes, I wouldn't know that the no questions existed. We can then add some things like guidance text. So please consider this is based off professional opinions. Please give detailed reasons for your scores. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how tidy is the site? Please give reasoning for your score. And again, simple and easy e-signatures. But what I'm going to do to show the consistent audit information is we're going to come into the edit and we're going to click into the site inspection itself. Now, for example, lots of people create forms and capture data in different ways, and it becomes really paramount that actually we need to make sure that we're fitting in with your current working processes. And what the tech does, the tech is an enabler to making your processes more streamlined. So in the linear scale here, if I say on a scale of 1 to 10, how tidy is the site? Actually, you might want to put something like a marking criteria in and say actually 5 is excellent, 4 is great, 3 is good, 2 needs work, 1 requires immediate action. So we might actually just want to scale this down to 1 to 5. But actually what we've seen lots of our customers do when we do inspections and we carry out checklists is actually they can weight the questions. So for example, you might do a question around site setup that you want to be scored out of 5, but you may not want the score itself to be actually taken into account in the final data. So all we'd have to do is go and change the weight to 0. Or for example, if I wanted to change the weight to 2, now it's scored out of 10. So actually some questions become more important than others. Now, when it comes to the custom visibility rules, I'm just going to show you how we've created this. So if I come into the action creator, which was please clear the fire exits and take photographs once complete, you'll notice here the keen eyes on the call, because I'm conscious that is quite small on screen. It is a red icon on the eye. And what this does is if I just click into it, it prompts me by some custom visibility rules. Now, what you can see here is if the site inspection question, are the fire exits clearly marked, is no, then show in mandate. Now, what I might want to do is I can run through these and keep changing, tweaking and editing this to make sure that actually you can take people down a path that you want them to without having to worry about people selecting forms like not applicable for the third question in a row because I've answered yes to this, and then all of a sudden a section becomes not applicable. So essentially in the configurations, what we're allowing you to do is create forms in whichever way you'd like. The last piece on capturing this information is some of you might think, I don't capture my audit information in that way. We like to do it slightly differently. Now, in the form fields here on the left-hand side, what you're going to notice is all of the different types of question that we can ask. So in whichever way you want to collate that data, like I alluded to earlier, it's all about how we go around, how we enable ourselves to fit into your processes, not us asking you to change your processes to fit in with the tech. So hopefully, as a little bit of a recap to that area, that is capturing consistent audit information in the creation element of it. So a real key takeaway for us here is if we want to be able to capture it, our job is to enable you to gather data in whichever way you're most comfortable as a business. not interrupt current processes, but enable them to allow you to streamline, and then ultimately save your time and effort from the end users actually being encouraged to fill out forms. Now, we'll all know personally from doing these kind of forms in our personal lives, when we're going and carrying out a form and you tick yes and the next 3 questions become not applicable, it almost creates an anger inside you. I'm not sure if that's just me and my impatience, but actually there's only so long that we can carry that out. So the next piece that we're going to look at is, and the second point that Ben talked about, was scheduling of audits, corrective actions, efficiencies, but enabling that the consistent audit information we've taken from these forms rolls into the next piece when we're scheduling. So across the left hand side on the bottom here, you should see schedules. Now, this is the piece where, again, we're trying to enable and streamline processes through automation. So what I'm going to do is we're going to run through that. We're going to use the form that we've just created, and we're going to run this through beginning to end. So if I click add schedule here, conscious there might be a lag, so I'll wait a couple of seconds. We should be able to see the form which says new schedule at the top. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a name of the daily site inspection, as we've just been through. And of course, what template do we want to use? The notify daily site inspection template. Now, if you're sat here as a SHE manager, SHEQ manager, and you're actually sending this across to different areas of the business, you might want to be the receiver of the notifications on here, but actually what you might want to do is, if I just pop a comma, I can pop multiple people to be the receivers of notifications to alert them once these things have been completed. As we come down, what we can see is the schedule, frequency, when do we want it, how frequently do we want it. So actually, in this case, I'm going to pop this in daily. I'm going to pop this to go out at 9 a.m. And when do we want to start it? Now, just to round everything off, we're going to start this on the 1st of next month. And let's say we just want to trial it for a couple of months to see how we get on. Now, this becomes really, really important when we're setting things for daily, that we set strict timings on how long do people have. So what I might want to do is I might say, I'm going to give the person 4 hours to do it. And then if do we want to auto update it to miss? So if that person is not there to do it, or if that person didn't complete it, we want that to prompt as missed, so the relevant people in the notifications are alerted. And then we get to how do we want to send this across. So firstly, we can schedule this by location. So if you've got a number of sites across the business, for example, I might go into select locations, and this is going to pull from my org chart. Now, let's say I just look after the Amble site. I might want to go, actually, I want to send it to these 3 areas who do really similar pieces of work. They're all going to have to carry out that inspection, and I save that. And what that will allow me to do is select the assignee who's responsible for that site. Now, the way we set this up via permissions is that you could have a number of different people that are responsible for that. So you could send that to different assignees for different areas, and the expectation is that it gets done within the time. Also, if you didn't just want to send it to one person, we can send this via user group. And the end users in this case are what we call auditors. So the people that are going to carry out those audits. So if I send that out, it works in the exact same way. So again, I'm going to go to Amble, and I'm going to go into the 3 different areas of Amble there, save that down, and now the notifications will trigger to all the assigned auditors at Amble. So you might want a number of different people to complete this form at certain areas of the business. So now, when I come and save that down, all you have to do as the manager of this is come into the run history to check when it's been completed, who's completed it, has it been missed. And again, for example, you might want to send this out and you might update the form. And it's a real frequent question that we get asked here. And it's very much a case of, okay, well, I'm going to update the form. That will not update for that day if the form's already been sent out, but from the next day you'll have the created and updated form in that schedule, so you do not have to come and edit the schedule to make sure that you're on the latest version. Again, if you wanted to change this and you thought, actually, daily site inspection, we want to change this to different frequencies, all we have to do is come into here and edit. So hopefully from that perspective, what that's allowed us to do is really automate that process, make it quicker, and enable you guys to be able to focus more time on the outcomes of the forms rather than the chasing element of the form. So we can actually spend the time, okay, what were the outcomes? Where did we fail? Where could we improve? As opposed to, did Ben go and complete that form? I'm going to email and ring him again for the third time today. So just going to pause there whilst I load the phone screen up. And Ben, do you want to take any questions on what we've seen so far, just whilst I load the mobile app up?
So I've asked everyone who's kindly joined us if they have any that they'd like us to go through, but we did have some that were submitted in advance already. So we've got people. One that came in advance, Johnny, was: is it possible to lock down audit templates to certain departments, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason that these permission bases and the group permissions work so nicely is we're linking it to your org structure. So again, because we're trying to use this tool as an enabler to your current processes, we don't want people to be able to log into areas and go, actually, I can see everything. It's overwhelming. I'm seeing every template. So for example, this platform gets used a lot for quality, environmental, safety, any kind of template or any kind of check that we need to go and complete. So actually, if I work in the quality team, Ben, and you work in the safety team, for example, you might not have a remote interest in the forms that I'm going to carry out. So our group permissions can lock those forms down to say, Ben, you don't have to worry about what I'm dealing with, and vice versa.
Cool. Makes sense. And what about as it relates to kind of, we've talked there about like locking templates down. Have we got time for another quick question, Johnny, before we jump in?
Absolutely, we do.
So in terms of editing live templates, right? Say, for example, we've built one, it's pre-scheduled to go out, but we think that maybe we want to amend it or get some changes. How easy is it to kind of get into it and put a couple of tweaks in?
Yeah, absolutely. So not only, I think I alluded to it slightly earlier in the sense of, not only can we change the form itself, the form will not update for that day if the schedule's already been sent out. But if we were to edit the form, and then the schedule doesn't get amended, but for the next day, the relevant changes that have been made to the forms will actually update, ready for the next day. But if we were to come in and edit the schedule, we can edit, say, the frequency. Again, it works the same. If the form's already gone out that day, of course, we aren't time travelers, right? We can't go back in time and go and edit the form. We can't go back and edit the forms that have been already pre-sent. But for the next day and the upcoming days, if we're realizing that we're missing certain bits of data, the last thing we want to do is make you have to go in and create a new one, design a new one, push that out, because then people get confused. Which one am I doing? So we're trying to make it as simple and easy as possible to go and carry out that and make the relevant changes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great stuff. So hopefully, whilst we were answering a couple of questions in the middle there, you're able to see my screen okay? I'm relying on you for confirmation here, Ben, because...
Oh, yes, sorry, apologies. Yeah, we can see the screen, we can, yes.
Great stuff. So this is the Notify Audits and Inspections app. So this would be where we're going and carrying out most of our forms, our checklists, anything that we need to complete. Now, a couple of bits to note about this. This is a native app, so downloadable via iOS Store, Google Store, accessible via QR codes when we create the forms. So we can scan a QR code on a certain piece of equipment or machinery, and we could scan it and go directly into the form, or we can carry them out on the desktop. So in whichever way people are most comfortable, again, it links back to this enabling piece. We're not trying to go, if you carry out your audits on iPads, for example, we want to be able to fit in with that process rather than disrupt that process. So as I've logged in here, what you can see is these are the forms that I've been sent or that I need to complete that are loaded up here. But what we're going to do is, just as an example, we're going to stay on track and we're going to run through the form that we ran through and we built in the platform. So we're going to go into the daily site inspection and add it here. And when we come in here, what we can see is our audit details, general details, and the relevant sections within the form. Now, if I click into audit details, what I'll be met with, okay, what date was it completed? It was today. And when was the date and time it was due? So I can say, okay, it was due tomorrow and it was due at 10:20. Now, just before we go into the next section, what you're going to notice is at the top there, the audit details has changed to a tick, and the general details in the site inspection area still has the exclamation mark on. Now, the reason for this is just to show you if you're doing your long audits or you're doing any audits that might take a couple of days. At the bottom here, I could come out and sync audit changes. So actually the expectation in here is that this will save and you can come back in at a later date. The expectation isn't that, okay, I've got 200 questions to fill out. I have to do it all at once, otherwise I'm going to lose the data. Now, I'm just going to come into the general details and okay, what's the site manager's name? Now, I'm going to say, in this case, it's Ben Lind. Which site am I auditing today? And again, this is where it gives me the option to select from the org chart and go from the map. So I'm at the Amble site. I'm in the manufacturing area of that. But if I wanted to come in and make it much more simple for the end user, I can just click on the map and it'll geotag to my location. So what we're trying to do is, again, just trying to make it as simple as possible for the end users. We then come into the site inspection questions and it's going to say, okay, well, are all the fire routes clearly marked? Now, again, we know we've created the visibility rules here. So if I answer yes, it's going to pop up and say, take a photograph of at least one fire escape route being clear. And if the answer is no, it's prompting me with an action to clear the fire exits, take photos once complete, and then you can see the secondary prompt, which is the photo. So I'm just going to take a photo and use the pen on my desk because sadly I'm not near a fire exit to take a photo of. But again, when we come into the notes area, for those that perhaps are on site, that might articulate their message much clearer via speaking as opposed to writing. Again, we're trying to enable as opposed to disrupt. So below the return button there, you should see a microphone. Now this microphone allows us speech to text as an option. So even me as a little bit of a broad Geordie and it picks me up, I'm sure it's not going to struggle with anyone else. So I can just talk into that and really get a firmer description of that. Now, just back to the photo quickly, a key element of what we've worked really hard on behind the scenes on this is we know how much GDPR is on the top of everybody's minds when we're filling these things out. So when I take a photo on the app, the photo will not save to the device. So from a peace of mind perspective and not worrying about having a breach by mistake, so I could be carrying this out, have my phone taken, and I don't know that that data is there on my phone, the data will not store to the device. So we recommend, if possible, taking photos live as opposed to choosing from the gallery. Again, we can see here, please consider, based on your professional opinion, give a detailed reason for your score. How tidy is the site today? So I'm having a look around. I'm happy. I'm going to give that an 8. But actually, because I haven't put any guidance or marking criteria as to why, we've put a free text space and say, okay, please give a reasoning for your score. I'm going to say, vast improvements made. Everything clear and tidy. One thing left on the floor, for example. Now, when it comes to the area here, it's going to be, please confirm you have completed and understood the information you've provided. I toggle that on, and then it's just a simple e-signature. So it's going to prompt me to use my finger. I'm going to pop a signature on there and pop my name on here as well. So I mark that as done. Again, you can see the time and date that the signature was captured as well. So this becomes really, really paramount in terms of actually when this form was completed and does that data marry up with when we captured the signature. So have people forgotten to go and completing that? And whilst they're mid-Coronation Street on an evening, actually we're going and completing that and they're signing. We need to know that these things are being done as they happen and as it's happening live. Again, we come back to the loading screen. I now see 3 ticks and I can sync my audit changes if I want to save and come back in and review it later, or I just toggle this, mark as complete, and the action can be completed out. I can say action can't be undone. I mark it as yes. What you'll see there is it's now complete for me at the top, and you see the little wheel at the top that's toggling around there. Now it's just marked as green. That is officially synced back up with the platform. And you can see the immediate score. I've got 9 out of 11 there, scored at 81%, and it's amber as the scoring criteria I gave for this was 85. And when we come back into the platform, we can have a report scoring summary for each section to see where our actionable insights are, where can we go and create our actions to get our continuous improvement. So that is the mobile app. I saw a couple of questions come in, Ben. What I'm going to do from now is I'm just going to run through the last bit, which is the data capture, how dashboards can be utilized to provide centralized view of all the data, and then we'll open up the floor for the last sort of 10 or 15 minutes to really get into the questions.
Excellent.
If that's okay. So I'm just going to stop the broadcast from my phone, and you'll have to put up with seeing mine and Ben's face for a couple of seconds. And then we're going to share the screen and we're coming back into the dashboards. Now,
there we go.
When it comes to capturing audit data, there is such a wide range of what data you would actually want to collate. So actually, what we can see here is a top level overview of the data, number of completed forms, overdue forms, open, and a forms leaderboard. But just to make this data a little bit tidier, I'm going to filter by one area of my site. So I clicked filter, I filter by AMBL site. I can look at date filters and specific templates if I need to. But I'm going to click apply on that and I can see, okay, now we're dealing with some data that's not overwhelming. I can see 12 forms, 4 overdue, 4 open. Again, I can go into the filters if I need to, and I can go into perhaps a forms leaderboard. What are the most common forms that are being completed? I come into there, I can drill down into that. Who are the most common users that are completing these forms? And at every step of the way, we can click on the 3 dots, export these out to PowerPoint, Word, PDF. So if we are building management reports on a monthly or a quarterly basis, it's a case of snipping this data out. Across the bottom, what we can see is overdue forms, forms completed, and audits and inspections utilization. Now, the key element for us here is that because there's such a wide range of audit data that could be collated, we've gone with quite a broad overview here in the hope that when a customer comes on board with Notify, we can create and build these bespoke custom dashboards with the data that they specifically need. So people collate data in all manner of different ways, so there's not going to be one problem solved for everybody. So it's been a massive push from our tech team in the past 12 months to create the ability during the onboarding of creating those bespoke dashboards. Help us help you get the data that you need. But that, just to summarize, the second half of that was really how mobile apps can enable audits to be carried out from mobile or from anywhere. And the last point, how dashboards can be utilized to provide a centralized view of all the audit data. Now, that's what I had planned to run through, and we seem to be pretty much on time. I'm going to open up sort of the last 10 or 15 minutes here, Ben, to any questions that have come off the back of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you very much for that, Johnny. So we'll jump straight in with a couple of questions that we've had. So first one comes from James, and he's asking, can forms be completed without an internet connection?
It's a great question. So thanks for that, James. The answer to that is yes. So because it's a native app, and this is why I encourage people so much to make sure that when you are procuring things like this, to make sure that the app is native. When an app is downloadable via a store, it means it doesn't need that internet connection to go and complete it. I could complete it in the app, and when I next have Wi-Fi or when I next have mobile signal, that allows it to then sync up with the platform. So it's not interrupting the day, and it will still be dated correctly as per when it was completed, as opposed to oh, it's synced up now, this is the time they did it, and it marks as late. So because that would be backwards, right?
Fantastic. And so we've got a good thumbs up there from James. So I'm assuming that's going to class as asked and answered. So thanks very much for that, Johnny. Next one, we've got a question from Paul. Paul's wondering, can you assign actions to other people? Yes.
So the key to the actions piece here is we're trying to make it so that everybody across the business is involved in the safety processes, and there's a more accountability taken. So we can send an action to anybody across the business that do not need to be a user of the Notify platform. They'll receive an email with a link. they'll open the link and they'll receive a dumbed down version of the Notify platform with just a list of their actions that they need to complete. So you can provide them with the relevant context that you need to or not, but there's always that option and opportunity there to send it to anybody.
Fantastic. We're going back to the pre-asked ones.
Yep.
So I think you covered this already, Johnny, but just from a belt and braces perspective, can we customize categories to suit our specific organization?
Yes. So in the categorization piece in the form template, when I took you through the first point, which was capturing the audit information, the key element there was actually, if I want to create a folder type approach with inspections, checklists, audits, but then I wanted to have quality, environmental, daily briefings, for example, then only the relevant people are seeing the relevant areas. So that was what I linked to, Ben, where you create the whatever you like. But if me and you are in quality and environmental, Ben, we may not want to see each other's forms. So actually we're trying to make it so it's not overwhelming and people are only seeing the things relevant to them.
Fantastic. And then I think this question dovetails really nicely. So are there other ways that our customers are using this module? Like it's not just a specialized audit tool, shall we say? Is it feels like that customization is available?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the key areas that people are using it for tend to be safety, quality, environmental. So linking it to sort of 45,001, 9,001, 14,001, and any sort of legislative or data capture that we need to make sure that we're compliant against that and demonstrating that.
Excellent. Good stuff. And then lastly, this one I think was from someone who's particularly not super familiar with us, but they were saying, I saw that there are a few other modules in your system. Could you just give us a brief example about how incident management works, for example?
Yeah, so actually what we'll do is as part of sharing the recording out for anyone that wants to perhaps see the incident management webinar that we shared and that we ran in December, happy if anyone on request we can share out that recording as well. But it's essentially, this works really similarly, app-based for the end users, make it quick and simple, get as much detail as we possibly can in the back end. But a key takeaway from us is, and something that I've seen work really well, for anyone on the call that might have a couple of weeks of site audits that are coming up, we offer trials of the platform here. So what I've done in the last couple of weeks for people who've had a couple of weeks of really big audits coming up, trying it operationally. If you send me across a form that you're going to need to be completing, I'll build that form, we'll get you set up on the trial, and we'll let you run the trial operationally. We know that it all sounds great in practice. We need to see, is this going to work operationally? So then you've got that peace of mind coming into using a tool like this. So if anyone wants us to build them some forms, and we put you on a trial for a week or two to go and see, actually, let's see how this works in practice, great stuff. We're more than happy to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do see quite a lot of people going down that route. We've got another question here.
Great.
Holly asks, how can we make sort of pre-operational checklists for forklift operations, for example?
So it works. In the first point where we covered the capturing the consistent audit information, that was essentially a form template builder. So if we run into the form template, we along the left hand side where we had the form fields, it was all the different types of questions we can ask. So if you're doing, what was it, a pre-use forklift, was that?
Yeah, kind of pre-op checklist for forklifts. Yeah.
Pre-op checklist for forklifts, for example. We create the name, however you want to collate the data for that checklist. We're giving you the ability to ask the questions and complete those in whichever way suits you. Again, linking back to this being an enabler rather than a disruptor. Us following your processes, but allowing them to be streamlined. But again,
Fantastic.
if that's something that Polly wants to see in more detail, again, I'm more than happy to run through that specific area on a call or take someone through that. And if there are any specific needs that people have for specific forms, let me showcase how we can go about building them and getting you using them.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Well, we've got another question. Thank you for that, Polly. Appreciate it. And Michael asks, can the platform only be hosted internally with no external access due to a secure network environment? So I suppose how locked down is it?
So again, it's as locked down and as we can lock it down as much as you require it, right? So if it's if it's an example of actually I just want people to see certain areas here, I don't want anyone to have access to this stuff, then we can lock it down to say there might be 3 or 4 core users in your safety team that you just want to have access to this. And actually, rather than allowing external access, we share actions out and context out to people so they're only seeing stuff that's relevant to them. So again, happy to take people through how the group-based permissions and how we lock people down works, but it's essentially as much or as little as you'd like it to be locked down. We're just trying to work with you.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you for the question, Michael, and thank you for the answer, Johnny. Oh, Michael says thanks as well. It's good to get that across. Right, okay. I think what we'll do is we'll quickly ask if anyone's got 1 or 2 more questions that they want to shoot across to us. Feel free to drop them into the chat now. But I suppose while we're waiting for those to trickle in, just by way of closing things out, thank you very much for that, Johnny. Thank you very much, everybody, for your attendance. Me and Johnny are kind of very visible, very findable on LinkedIn. So if anyone has any follow-up questions that they would like us to take, that they want us to handle, or I can put you in touch with Johnny, or feel free to reach out directly. And we probably will get somebody. Well, we'll be doing a little bit of following up with each of you after this, just to get a little bit of feedback on the webinar, see how you found it, see if there's anything that we can do to improve these going forwards. So it looks like that might be it for questions. So yeah, I suppose last thing from us is just to say thank you very much. We'll be in touch to get some feedback, and we'd love to hear from you to answer any further questions if indeed there are any. So thanks everybody for your time. Thank you, Johnny, for your time.
Thanks all. Really appreciate it.
And have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.